warm welcome. Thank you. Thank you. Please. Very kind. I hate to stand between you and your lunch, but I have a topic of importance today, and there are a number of topics we could discuss. I'd love to lay out my whole policy as it relates to small business and how to have an agenda that gets small businesses successful again, how to replace Obamacare, energy policies for the country, how to tackle our budget deficit. There are a lot of things I'd like to talk about, but I have a topic of significance for the entire nation that I'm going to spend some time talking about. But first I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce for hosting all of us today. This year marks the 100th anniversary of standing up for American enterprise by the Chamber. I don't think there are many organizations that have a record like this. Few have fought longer and harder for the principles of economic freedom than the Chamber of Commerce. And these days, your voice is more important than ever. And I'm grateful also to the Latino Coalition for the invitation to be part of your annual economic summit. In recent days, we've heard a lot about business from the President. And if you feel like you deserve protection under the Endangered Species Act, I can't blame you. This is a time when everybody in this administration should be doing everything in their power to support you. If every one of our small businesses added just 2 employees, Americans could pay more mortgages and buy more groceries and fill their gas tanks. Instead, sadly, President Obama has decided to attack success. It's no wonder so many of his own supporters are calling him to stop this war on job creators. Make no mistake, when I'm president, you won't wake up every day and wonder if the president is on your side. Starting from day one, I will be there to help you make success, to make it, to make ends meet, to be able to hire people, to be able to pay good wages. And if by some chance you're successful beyond your wildest dreams, I'll be there to celebrate your success. Because I know your prosperity means greater opportunity for you, for your families, for your employees, for your communities, and for the nation. That's what the American dream is all about. It's about lifting the entire nation with the dreams of the American people. Now, during my own lifetime, I've seen a few of my own dreams come true. I've run and started businesses, and as Hector indicated, I've helped guide the Olympics and had the opportunity to lead a great state. I learned early on that the only way to succeed in tough situations is to bring people together in a common purpose. That's how you achieve greatness. That's how you accomplish any goal. Dividing people and pitting one side against another produces nothing but failure and mediocrity. Unfortunately, we've seen way too much of that from this administration. And that's in part why we're facing the slowest economic recovery since the Great Depression. And it's why this president and his party have failed to address the most serious problems that are facing the country. It is not time to divide. It is time to come together and remain one nation under God. Now, when the president took office, he faced a jobs crisis. It's barely improved. He faced a spending crisis. He's made that worse. And he faced an education crisis. Now, I'd love to be able to stand here and tell you that we're celebrating the end of our education crisis. Wouldn't it be great if we could look back on the last 4 years with confidence that the crisis has been confronted and we turn the corner towards a brighter future? But sadly, that has not happened. And the tragedy is not just a matter of test scores and international rankings. It's the frustration of a 6th grader who wants to learn more, but is stuck in a class that's hardly moving at all. It's the embarrassment of a 10th grader who knows he can't read the books he's been assigned. It's the shame of a 12th grader who's supposed to be ready to graduate, but he hasn't mastered the skills he or she needs to succeed in the jobs of today. In this country, every child has something to contribute. No matter what the circumstances were that they were born into, every child has a dream about where they can go or what they can become. Whether that dream is to invent something, or to start something, or to build something, or create something, it all starts with basic skills and confidence that come from a good education. Yet today, way too many dreams are never realized because of our failing education system. More than 150 years ago, our nation pioneered public education. And yet now we've fallen way behind. Among the developed countries of the world, you probably know this already, the United States comes in 14th out of 34 in reading, 17th out of 34 in science. And how about this? 25th out of 34 in math. Our public education system is supposed to ensure that every child gets a strong start in their life. Yet 1 in 4 students in this country fails to get a high school degree. Think of that. 1 out of 4. What are they going to do? And in our major cities, half of our kids don't graduate. Half. Imagine that. Imagine if your enterprise had a 25 or 50% failure rate in meeting its goal. You'd consider that a crisis. You'd make changes fast. Because if you didn't, you'd be out of business in a hurry. But America's public education establishment shows no sense of urgency. Instead, there's a fierce determination to keep the things just the way they are. Here we are in the most prosperous nation on earth, but millions of our kids are getting a third world education. And America's minority children suffer the most. This is the civil rights issue of our era, and it's the greatest challenge of our time. Last week, I spoke about the prairie fire of debt that is spreading across our country. Today, I want to talk to you about the crisis in education. With all of our economic troubles, there's a temptation to put off the task of fixing our schools for some other time. But the jobs and housing failures of the past few years only make the task of education and its promise to improve the future more important. And let's not kid ourselves. We're in the midst of a national education emergency. The only reason we don't hear more about it is because our economic troubles have taken the national attention away from the classroom. But if unemployment was where it should be and home values were going up, there's no question but that the crisis in American education would be the great cause of this campaign. Of course, the jobs and housing failures of these past few years only make the need for educational improvement that much more critical. So I'll be blunt. I don't like the direction of American education. And as president, I will do everything in my power to get education on track for the kids of this great land. You have business careers, you've learned from them. I found that you can't expect dramatically different results unless you're open to dramatically different options. As president, I will pursue a very bold policy of change that will restore the promise of our national education system. Let me tell you some of the things I'm going to do. First, I'm going to expand parental choice in an unprecedented way. Too many of our kids are trapped in schools that are failing or simply don't meet their needs. And for too long, we've merely talked about the virtues of school choice without really doing something about it. So as president, I'm going to give the parents of every low-income and special needs student the chance to choose where their child goes to school. For the first time in history, federal education funds will be linked to the student so that parents can send their child to any public or charter school of their choice. in addition, I'm going to make that choice meaningful by ensuring that there are sufficient options for parents to be able to exercise it. And thus, in order to receive the full complement of federal education dollars, states are going to have to provide students with an ample school choice opportunity. In addition, digital learning options must not be prohibited in the state. And charter schools and similar education choices have to be scaled up to meet student demand. And by the way, instead of eliminating the DC Opportunity Scholarship Program, as President Obama has proposed, I'll expand it to offer more students a chance. Look, it's going to become a model for parental choice for school systems across the nation. Parental choice will hold schools responsible for results, but parents can only exercise that choice effectively if they have good information about which schools are succeeding and which are failing. No Child Left Behind. It helped our nation take a big leap towards bridging the information gap. But the law isn't without some weaknesses. As president, I'm going to break that political logjam that has prevented successful reform of that law. And I'll reduce federal micromanagement, but I'm going to redouble efforts to ensure that schools are held responsible for their results. So, for example, parents shouldn't have to navigate a complicated and cryptic evaluation system to figure out how well their kids' schools are doing. States are going to have to provide a simple-to-read and widely available public report card that evaluates each and every school. And these report cards will provide accurate, easy-to-understand information about student performance and school success. States will continue to design their own standards and tests, but this information is going to be provided so that parents can make an informed choice. We're going to take bold steps to ensure that our system welcomes and rewards the best people into the teaching profession. As president, I'm going to make it my goal to ensure that every classroom has a quality teacher. Did you know there are currently 82 federal programs in 10 different federal agencies that spend $4 billion a year on teacher quality? As president, I'm going to consolidate those programs, block grant them to the states so they can adopt innovative policies, such as states are going to be rewarded if they regularly evaluate teachers for their effectiveness and if they compensate the best teachers for teaching success in the classroom. Teaching is a highly valued profession. It's got to attract the best and brightest from around the country. So these things together, dramatically expanding school choice, making schools responsible for results by giving parents access to clear and instructive information, and attracting and rewarding our best teachers. These changes can help ensure that every parent has a choice and every child has a chance. Now let me just note parenthetically, as you know, we live in a 21st century that increasingly demands a college education. And so efforts at improvement can't really stop at the high school's end. Students have to have access to a wide variety of options that will give them the skills they need for successful careers. We got to stop fueling skyrocketing tuition prices that put education out of the reach of way too many of our kids and leave others with crushing debt. Now these are bold initiatives, and they're going to produce better outcomes for our parents and teachers and students. But accomplishing real change is not going to be easy. Efforts to truly reform our schools always meet with strong resistance and entrenched interests. The teachers' unions are the clearest example of a group that has lost its way. Whenever anyone dares to offer a new idea, the unions protest the loudest. Their attitude was memorably expressed by a longtime president of the American Federation of Teachers. He said, and I quote, "When school children start paying union dues, that's when I'll start representing the interests of children." Yeah. The teachers' unions don't fight for our children. That's our job. And our job keeps getting harder because the unions wield outsized influence in elections and campaigns. Annually, Many teachers are forced to pay almost $1,000 a year in union dues. The two major teachers' unions take in $600 million a year. That's more revenue than both of the political parties combined. In 2008, the National Education Association spent more money on campaigns than any other organization in the country. And 90% of their money went to the Democratic Party. Education is one issue where it should be easy to find common purpose and common solutions. And I believe the president must be troubled by the lack of progress since he took office. Most likely, he would have liked to do more. But the teachers' unions are one of the Democrats' biggest donors and one of the president's biggest campaign supporters. So President Obama has been unable to stand up to union bosses and unwilling to stand up for our kids. Most recent example is the Opportunity Scholarship Program. Since 2004, it's allowed thousands of children in the District of Columbia to escape one of the worst school systems in the nation and get a world-class education. With scholarships of up to $7,500 each, students are enrolled in private schools. 99% of those students were Hispanic or African American. After only 3 months, those students could already read at levels 19 months ahead of their public school peers. And parents were happy. For every spot in the program, there were 4 kids hoping to get in. And then Senator Durbin, Democrat from Illinois, he inserted a provision to end the program. Can you imagine? And the White House offered no resistance. In fact, the president has proposed ending all funding for opportunity scholarships. Must have gone against his better instincts. But the unions wanted it, so he went along. In the opportunity scholarships, the Democrats finally found the one federal program they're willing to cut. Why? Because success anywhere in our public schools is a rebuke to failure everywhere else. That's why the unions oppose even the most common sense reforms. In Detroit, another example. Students in the city's failing public schools were offered a lifeline by a philanthropist. He offered $200 million to create 15 charter schools in the city. The teachers' union fought to get the state legislature to turn that gift down, and they did. Can you imagine? In Connecticut, parents groups tried to pass parent trigger legislation so they could take over and transform failing schools. A national teachers' union effort moved aggressively to stop that. Now, of course, some union leaders will tell you that their objectives are misunderstood. They'll argue that the issues are very complicated, but they're really simple. It comes down to this. When your cause in life is preventing parents from having a meaningful choice or children from having a real chance, then you're on the wrong side. You might even be in the wrong vocation, because good teachers put the interests of children first. The same is true of a good president. In his speeches, President Obama likes to tell us, we can't wait. If only he'd say that and mean that about education reform. Because millions of kids are waiting for change, and so many are missing their chance. The president can't have it both ways. He can't talk up reform while indulging the groups that are blocking reform. He can't be the voice of the disadvantaged public school kids and the protector of the special interests. President Obama has made his choice, and I made mine. As president, I'll be a champion of real education reform in this country, and I won't let any special interest get in the way. We have to stop putting campaign cash ahead of our kids. This is a battle we can win and a battle we must win. And while a lot of this needs fixing, we're getting some of the most important things right. We have good teachers, like the ones who are leading New York City's democracy prep. Because of teachers like them, kids from the city's poorest community are outperforming children from the wealthiest community. Think of that. Last summer, these teachers took over the worst elementary school in Harlem rather than let it shut down. Democracy Prep is a testament to good people who refuse to give up on our kids or to leave our cities without a fight. And leadership. Leadership makes a huge difference as well. When Jeb Bush became governor of Florida, reading scores among Hispanic students in that state school system were just awful. Some of the worst in the entire nation. He brought focused innovation and passionate leadership. And today those scores have risen dramatically. But too often, new ideas, good teachers, and dedicated parents don't find a welcoming partner and a true champion in elected officials like Governor Bush. Instead, they're met with resistance and resentment from the teaching establishment, the unions. I know what it's like to be a governor fighting to do things differently, by the way. You need every bit of help you can get. As president, I will stand shoulder to shoulder with the reformers and the innovators, with the parents, the teachers, and the kids. When I became governor of my state, we were in the midst of instituting tough bipartisan education reforms. And they included a requirement that to graduate from high school, you had to pass a graduation exam. Now that principle and that exam came under attack from the unions. They spent some $600,000 in advertising, tried to stop the test from being applied, but we stood our ground. We also decided to offer our best students a 4-year tuition-free scholarship to the state college of their choice. Think about that. So the top quarter of the kids who took that exam got that scholarship. Now I called it the John and Abigail Adams Scholarship, after two very early Massachusetts citizens who understood the importance of public education. So every year I'd ask a school principal to invite the students who had scored in the top quarter on that exam to come to a special assembly. Now the kids didn't know when they came to the assembly why they were coming together. They didn't know they were in the top quarter. So I began speaking to them, and after some words about hard work, I'd ask them to reach under their chair and remove an envelope that we had taped there. And then I'd watch as each one of them would open the enclosed letter. Every year I'd stand in front of the room and the same scene would unfold. At first you could hear a pin drop. Then each student's eyes would get big and proud smiles would creep across their faces as they found out that they were in the top quarter of those that had taken that exam. And then they'd read the part in the letter where they learned that they'd earned an Adams Scholarship. And then the smiles turned to cheers. And the sound was often deafening. I got more hugs, by the way, on Adams Scholarship Day than I did at Christmas at home. Kids would bring me their cell phones so that I could talk to their parents and tell them the news. And parents more than once told me that they'd been worried that they wouldn't be able to afford college and that this scholarship could make a difference. Here in America, every child deserves a chance. It shouldn't be reserved for the fortunate few. If America is going to continue to lead the world in how much we build and create and invent, then we must transform how we teach and train and educate. We already have good teachers and engaged parents and big ideas. What we need now is strong political leadership and political will. A choice for every parent means a chance for every child. That can be more than our hope. It can be our future. It can begin this year in the choice you make. Thank you. This can be more than our hope. It can be our future. It can begin this November in the choice you make. So I'm asking for your help. I need you guys to go out and get people across the community to tell them how important this issue is. I care about a lot of things. I'm going to get the economy going. I'm going to make sure that we help people that are in need. I'm going to make sure we open up new markets for American goods and products. But I want you to know as well, I'm going to get education working for the people of America to assure that our kids have a future even brighter than what we've enjoyed. I love this country. I need your help. Together we're going to take back America and keep it the hope of the earth. Thank you so much, and God bless America. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you so much for being with us. And thank you for sharing such an important message for our community. Please be seated. The Governor has agreed to take a few questions from our members. We've already received these questions, and it's a cross-section here, and I really appreciate you taking a few extra minutes to do this. Governor, we are addressing an economic crisis in our country. How do you see education tying into these broader concerns?
Well, education is obviously an investment that has a dramatic impact over time and on our future. And I think one of the things that troubles American families today as they think about the country is this sense of foreboding that somehow the future is not going to be as good for their kids as the life we've enjoyed. People who came here, either recently or a long time ago, came to this country for opportunity. And if they're concerned that opportunity is being snuffed out by special interests or politicians who won't lead, then they wonder about the future of America. And their decision to invest in America, to stay here, to grow here, to bring family members here, is called into question. Schools, I mean, when you think about where you're going to buy a home, what are the questions you ask? How are the schools? That's what you always want to know. How are the schools? As you think about what community you might go to. And that's a question you ask because you know if they're good schools, it's going to attract good people, good industry, values will go up. The same thing for a nation. If we have schools that are failing, the people of the world are not going to want to come here with the best and brightest. Won't want to invest here and build industries and businesses of all kinds. And then we won't have kids as well that have the skills to fill the jobs of tomorrow and today. Education is really one of the beginnings, founding blocks of what makes our economy work. It starts with families, moms and dads that contribute to the skill and values of their child. And it goes on with principles and values taught by our communities and churches and our culture. And it goes on to include great schools. Our schools are failing. We've known it year after year after year. And they're failing the minority communities that need the most. By the most. This is unacceptable. And we keep on talking about this year after year and doing nothing about it. And yet there are places where we see success, like under Jeb Bush in Florida. Let's take that success and apply it nationally so we can help our kids and get our economy going again.
Thank you, Governor. Governor, one of our Latino Coalition members asked this. Governor, we hear all the time that small businesses feel that they don't have an environment to start and grow their business, and they don't have an opportunity to have long-term success. As President of the United States and as a former successful business leader and governor, what would you do to create an environment that would help businesses succeed? What is your vision and perception to help these businesses?
Big topic. And there's not one little thing you have to do. There's not one little switch that you turn and somehow everything is great for business again. We know what the objective is. My objective is very different than I think the current administration. My objective is to make America the best place in the world for small business, middle-sized business, big business. Why? Because I want more jobs here. I want people to find good work and to have rising incomes. So I do that by making this a good place for business. By the way, some of my liberal friends, they love the economy. They want to see a strong economy. They just don't like business. The economy is nothing but the collection of the businesses of the nation. So I want to help. Now, how do I help business? A lot of things. I'll start with, well, normally people start with taxes. I'll start there. With taxes, for instance. I don't know how many of you have businesses that are taxed at the corporate tax rate? My guess is not a lot. Most smaller businesses are taxed at the individual tax rate. So when the president has proposed, as he has, raising the individual tax rate, the marginal rate, from 35% to 40%, he will kill jobs. You'll be able to keep less capital in your business. Less capital in your business means less investment in plant, equipment, new customers, research, and people. I want to lower the marginal tax rate across the board. Now, I'm going to pay for that by reducing some of the deductions and exemptions. And why do that? Well, because I want to make it easier for small business to grow and expand. Because I want more jobs and rising incomes. For me, this all comes back to helping the great majority of Americans that depend on small enterprise to have a good job. So that's one piece. A second piece. I'm going to take away the specter of Obamacare. It's scaring a heck of a lot of businesses. We don't want it. We don't need it. Let me mention another. There's no question in my mind but that the president's energy policy is to drive up the cost of oil, natural gas, and coal so they become closer in price to wind and solar. Now, I like wind and solar, but I like the low cost of gas and oil and coal. And so I'm going to make sure that we aggressively take advantage of our energy resources to keep our cost of energy down so that businesses that use energy find this the most attractive place to invest and to grow. An energy policy that creates growth and helps business is good for the American people. I'll go on. Regulations. You have to have regulations. You can't have an economy work, a free economy work, if there aren't regulations. Making sure that people aren't cheating and encouraging enterprise where possible. But that's the key. Regulators and regulations have to see their job as not solely stopping the bad guys, important as that is. They also have to see their job as encouraging the good guys. And so when you find out that the EPA, for instance, is making it so difficult to add on 4,000 square feet to a shopping facility, and it's taking years and years to get approvals, you say, this isn't good. It's slowing down construction jobs. It's slowing down jobs that will be filling that space. You've got to be able to move on a more rapid basis so we can make business work. You have to have regulators have an entirely different mindset. Sometimes I think the guys in Washington don't like you very much. I love you, all right? I love your effort to... I love your effort to create enterprises that not only reward you, reward your families, but reward the people that you're able to hire, and your customers and suppliers. It's how America works. And so I will do, whether it's regulation or taxation or energy or trade. Let me mention trade. A great and productive nation benefits by trading with other nations. It's good for business. We have a huge trading partner group right next door in Latin America. Now, we're all interested in what's happening in China and the opportunities there, and those are important. But right next door, we have massive opportunity. We should be aggressively pursuing bilateral trade agreements, opening up avenues for free trade with Latin American countries. It's not just good for them, it's good for us. And yet, an agreement that had been put together by President Bush with Colombia, an extraordinary ally, standing up to Hugo Chavez, that agreement was stalled for 3 years, again, because organized unions didn't want it. We have to have an entirely different mindset. We have to have government seeing part of their job is encouraging enterprise. That includes trade, labor policies. How can you have people in this room scared to death that the government might impose unions on your employees if those employees don't want them? That's what card check would do. Those kinds of policies kill jobs. Everything I will do is designed to make America a more attractive place for job creators, for small businesses, big businesses, for employees, and for rising wages. And I'm going to get the job done. Thank you.
Excellent, Governor. I have to tell you this. You just hit on one of the most important and popular subjects for a lot of people in this room. And I have to tell you, we have a delegation here from Colombia. We have a delegation here from Bolivia. In fact, we have senators from those Congress. Now, you already pretty much answered this, but the idea behind this question is, and again, I really appreciate your answer, was that oftentimes we do ignore Latin America, our neighbor to the south. And so anything else that you'd want to add on that, on what we could do? It just seems like every time that there's a major disaster around the world, we take our focus off of Latin America, and we all believe that that is critical to the future of our country, to have a better relationship with Mexico, with Central America, with South America. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I guess it's a normal human tendency that when there's a threat, when there's something that frightens you, that you focus your attention on the threat and try and figure out how to deal with it. And so there have been various things over the last decades that have threatened us and frightened us, and we focus on those areas. But we really ought to also focus on our opportunities. And the opportunities in Latin America are really quite extraordinary. Not just because of our proximity and same time zones or proximate time zones, but because of the shared cultures and values that we have in the United States with these other nations of Latin America and North America. This is, or South America, Central America, North America. We have extraordinary economic opportunity we should be taking advantage of. And I should say in that regard, foreign policy effort as well. Look, what Hugo Chavez is doing, what Castro is doing, these things are a great danger to us and to people around the world. We should be actively involved in communicating and promoting our values, free enterprise, human rights, democracy throughout Latin America. Look, I'm very concerned about what's happening in the Middle East. And I'm concerned about what's happening in China. But I also care about what's happening in Latin America and in this hemisphere. We have to have a president who's as focused on the opportunities and the needs in our community, in our neighborhood, as we do in the rest of the world. And I happen to believe this. This may seem too optimistic to you, but I'm increasingly optimistic about the future of this country, our economic future, the prosperity for our kids. I say that because I see a number of good things coming together. One, an enormous market in Latin America that we have an advantage in being able to access. Two, extraordinarily talented, innovative, creative people we've long had. Three, massive energy resources that are suddenly becoming available. Very low-cost natural gas, for instance, which is going to bring manufacturing back to this country. And the opportunity for a leader that understands what it takes to get the economy going. I believe you're going to see over the coming couple of terms here, the next 4 to 8 years, you're going to see a complete redirection in America's economy. And the people of the world are going to be shocked at how strong America is. And our kids are going to be pleased that their future is even brighter than anything we've known. I can't wait to bring that to America. Thank you for your help. Thank you.